Hey, it's me, Sam B. As you know, our show has been a late-night institution for thousands of years. And in that time, we've amassed billions of segments. Like with children, it's hard to pick your favorites, but we've managed to do just that. Sorry, kids. Birth control is a goddamn miracle. It lets women choose if and when to get pregnant, and that time is exactly when we want to steal the thunder from a friend's engagement announcement. Birth control is incredibly useful. The problem is that it's so useful, it's being used as a treatment for a hell of a lot of things that aren't. Keep that baby out of me.
Now, we all know that birth control is basic preventive care that women rely on for a whole host of reasons, not just pregnancy prevention, but also health conditions like endometriosis and fibroids and other health conditions.
Other health conditions like PCOS and dysmenorrhea and wanting to hit and quit Derek. If a cis woman is having a problem between her belly button and her knees, birth control is often the only non-surgical treatment option she has. And for conditions like endometriosis, that really sucks. Actually, everything about endometriosis sucks.
At times it feels like there's just a chainsaw going through you and like nonstop, and to the point where it goes in your back and in your legs. It's just nonstop pain.
Aside from the intense pain, it also causes a host of other problems, including infertility and chronic fatigue.
It also increases your risk of a heart attack by 52%, which is awful since we already have increased risk of heart attack from worrying that Jen secretly doesn't like us. Her eye contact is always so short. You would think that a disease that is so painful it can actually stop your heart would at least be well understood, but doctors seem to have no clue what endometriosis is.
What is endometriosis?
Well, it is a disease, but it's a condition where the cells that are normally inside the uterus occur outside the uterus.
How do they get there?
We don't know.
It's like finding all of your furniture on your front lawn and the police are like, that's life. Want to take the pill? 1 in 10 women suffer from endometriosis, and it's just one of the many painful, debilitating lady diseases that gets treated with birth control and a shrug. There's also dysmenorrhea, irregular or excessive bleeding, and polycystic ovary syndrome. PCOS afflicts 1 in 10 women with symptoms like weight gain, hair growth, fertility problems, and diabetes. The only way that women could hate this disease more is if it also gave you Trump's dick pic. Since these diseases are incredibly common, poorly understood, and so painful, it's like your body's reenacting Saw every month, you'd think there would be tons of medical research devoted to curing them, but you would be wrong. 10% of women have endometriosis, and it gets around $10 million of funding per year. 10% of people have diabetes, and it gets $1 billion of funding per year. I mean, to be fair, people have a better grasp on diabetes thanks to movies like Steel Magnolias and babysitters like Stacy. Stacy, don't go into the candy shop. In the meantime, all you get is birth control. So if you have these diseases but want to get pregnant, you are out of luck. But the good news is we have literally dozens of medications to help men good. Well, good for them anyway. I mean, there's no pill to teach a dude to cut his nails before he puts it. You know what? That's a subject for another headline. Why aren't there better treatments for these intensely painful and common diseases? Because they're happening to ladies. Since the first caveman carved the first speculum out of cheetah bones, misogyny has always gotten in the way of doctors figuring out what's going on with lady bits. And hey, since it is Women's History Month, let's take a look back at the history of women's pain. Subtitle, Why You Have to Take Birth Control for Every Damn Lady Thing, with American treasure, Lori Metcalf.
Doctor, I'm experiencing pain all over my body whenever I get my monthly visits from, the goddess of war.
That's because your uterus is a hungry animal pac-manning around your body searching for babies. Trust me, I'm the medical professional here. I know how to treat this.
Okay, you're the doctor, I guess.
No, Dislodge and right thyself. Oh, you're very tight inside.
Thank you.
Oh. By medieval times, things had actually gotten worse. People now believed that women with endometriosis were witches. Probably not a lot of women sought a diagnosis when the prescription was being burned at the stake. By the Victorian era, medicine was truly advancing. General anesthesia was improved. We began to understand bacterial infection, and doctors even started wearing those head mirror things. But they still didn't understand women when they said, ouch.
Doctor, I'm having this intense pain in my lady parts.
Well, there are two options. I can commit you to a lunatic asylum, or I can manually stimulate you to completion.
Okay, I'll take the orgasm one.
Fine. It's just you're my sixth patient today, and my fingers are exhausted, so here we go. Look, women are so yucky. That's right. Victorian doctors invented the first vibrators because they were tired of fingering their patients. I know we just showed you that, but I wanted to say it again because it's fucking amazing. Once every 3,000 years or so, men's total ignorance of the female body works out in our favor. Throughout the 20th century, endometriosis was considered a career woman's disease, and the pain still often thought to be all in a woman's head, and women's pain still isn't taken as seriously as it should be. It takes 6 to 8 years on average to finally get diagnosed with endometriosis.
Doctor, it's enough. I have been coming to you for years, telling you that I am in pain, and you have told me to lose weight. You've told me that I'm faking it. You've told me that an Advil would cover it, and you've referred me to a therapist. It's 2018. There's no cure for endometriosis, and yet you guys have developed like 45 different pills for boners, and all you can offer me is the same old fucking birth control pill. So I'm done. I can't take it anymore.
I could burn you at the stake.
I'll take the birth control.
Very good. Should smile more. Got a pretty face. Now, I know some of you were thinking, surely it's not that bad in 2018, but I know others of you are thinking, oh my God, how did you get a microphone into my gyno appointment from last week? This stuff is not that far in the past. The medical community's indifference to women's bodies and opinions still affects all kinds of care. Up until 2010, Canada allowed medical students to practice pelvic exams on unconscious women without their consent who'd come in for gynecological surgery. So congrats if you woke up from surgery in Saskatchewan a few years ago with the eerie feeling that your crotch had taught a class. Don't worry, you're not crazy. You were assaulted by a doctor, because nothing says let's make an entire country of women feel crazy more than unconsented to unconscious secret pelvic exams. And that is why we're still taking birth control for diseases that have gone unstudied for centuries, because women's healthcare is still shrouded in the same fear, shame, and condescension that has been surrounding the female body since some dude made up a story about some lady stealing an apple to justify why he hates women. So ladies, next time you feel like the weight of the world is bearing down on your uterus, it is.
When are you getting power back?
I don't know.
Well, when are they telling you you're getting power back?
We don't know. They don't tell us anything.
And they've been saying, you know, that we're working on it. There's still places in San Juan that they don't have power.
In New York, if we didn't have power for a week, people would be eating each other.
I know.
Hurricane Maria happened 6 months ago, and while PREPA, the Puerto Rican power company, has finally restored power to over 1 million people, the island is still plagued with sporadic brownouts. And on top of that, over 100,000 people aren't even connected to the grid. What's the holdup? I started in San Juan to find out.
There is a combination of corruption and just general ineptitude. It's actually a man-made disaster.
Ugh, men. After the hurricane, PREPA contracted several shady companies to rebuild the grid. One was Whitefish Energy, a company of two based in a cabinet secretary's hometown, and the other was a fracking company called
And Cobras are not nice animals.
You don't go like, the cobra's here, guys. The cobra's gonna save us. Obviously, Cobra is not gonna rescue the Puerto Rican people. So who is? To find out, I went to San Sebastian and talked to Mayor Javier Jimenez.
Y es bien difícil para tú poder restaurar el sistema eléctrico. Pero aquí nosotros pues tomamos la iniciativa como municipio de crear brigadas municipales, ayudarnos a restablecer el sistema.
So in some ways, the solution to Puerto Rico's power issue is Puerto Ricans.
¿Sí?
Exactly. While power companies do work on the island, it's groups like this ragtag team of 75 rogue volunteers who do a lot of the heavy lifting. How did you become vigilante electricians? Were you already doing this work before the hurricane?
No, no era electricista, era rescatista y teníamos adiestramiento. Para entonces nosotros empezar a lo que es Pepino Power Authority. Es un suplemento a esas personas que tanto necesitaban el servicio de energía eléctrica.
What is a pepino?
La palabra exacta es pepino.
I'm going to call you the electric cucumbers because I think the logo will be very cute.
No.
These electric cucumbers and their do-gooding were making their town happier than the other definition of electric cucumber. Seems like the Puerto Rican people have it under control. Some cities are coming back to life, and the countryside is, Mountainous and rural areas like Vega Alta were the most affected by the hurricane and have been the most neglected by government recovery efforts. Electricity is so scarce in these areas that people still rely on events like this laundry party, where Puerto Ricans go to do their laundry on a fucking bus because they still don't have power. They also get hot meals and haircuts. What's the importance of coming here together and getting your hair cut?
Es realzar su entusiasmo, su autoestima, porque se van a sentir mejor.
Let me try. Puerto Rico's been through enough. I'm not going to do that. Despite all the hard work Puerto Ricans have put into their own recovery effort, this is still the longest blackout in U.S. history.
De verdad que es casi imposible pensar que en algún momento vaya a llegar la luz.
Impossible? We live in a country where anything is possible. Meet Arturo Masoldeja of Casa Pueblo, a nonprofit whose aim is to educate people about renewable energy.
So Casa Pueblo runs on solar power since 1999. The day after the hurricane, we just opened the door and we gave service to the community.
And so you're teaching people that using solar energy is not some crazy idea that a hippie once thought of.
What we're doing here is changing the energy landscape to be better prepared for the future. We want people to learn the magic of the sun.
Just don't call it science, or the rest of America will shut it down.
Well, but it is science.
Okay, but just keep calling it magic is what I'm saying. Who doesn't love magic? And Casa Pueblo has provided hundreds of people in need with the magic of the sun in the form of solar panels. I wanted in, but how?
Es realzar su entusiasmo, su autoestima, porque se van a sentir mejor y mejor.
That's it, a barber. I didn't get to cut that little boy's hair, but maybe I can help the people of Adjuntas feel fresh. So how did Hurricane Maria affect your business?
Porque como yo no tenía luz, pues se fueron para otro lado. Perdí bastante.
What if you could bring solar energy into your shop?
Yo estaba pensando eso, pero es que no, chao.
Casa Pueblo is on the case. First step, get the word out.
Favor dejar las calles despejadas ya que van paneles solares hacia la barbería en Adjuntas.
So responsible of you. I've always wanted to do this. Buenos tardes, Puerto Rico. Con Samantha. Makes me feel so. I was gonna help install the panels, but Casa Pueblo said I should watch the truck instead. How's it going up there?
Todo bien, montando las placas.
Exhausting. And then came the moment when all my hard truck sitting paid off. Mission accomplished.
Buen trabajo, Tran.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't know why I feel like I did something. Anyway, one down, about 100,000 to go.
Dios, señor extraña.
Last week, Donald Trump held a public roundtable on immigration enforcement. Appropriately enough for these occasions where the main objective is to suck up to him, the president's official YouTube page says it took place at the White Hose, which is also both the Secret Service and Melania's nickname for him. Among all the participants at the White Hose that day, acting ICE Director Thomas Homan stood out for his plaintive cry in defense of his agency.
You got a congressman who said, quote, the cowardly acts of ICE officers that terrorize innocent immigrant communities. ICE does more to protect the immigrant community than any politician ever has done. I'm sick and tired of the constant vilification of these men and women.
Leave Brittany alone!
Aw, remember when people used to defend women on the internet? It was a simpler time. ICE, of course, refers to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the agency whose job application is just a single question asking if the real hero of Schindler's List was the girl shouting, "Goodbye, Jews." If that criticism of ICE makes you sad, here's a proposal. Let's shut it the f down. I'm serious, it's awful, and we don't actually need it. You know, as a liberal, I don't usually advocate for smaller government, but in this case, as I say to my barista every morning, there should be one less ICE. Far from being an essential part of our republic, ICE has only existed since 2003. It's the same age as America's Next Top Model. You've known what smizing is for as long as ICE has existed, and though it may be hard to believe during haircut week, ICE has ruined far more lives.
The number of those immigrants with no criminal record that are arrested has doubled under this administration.
In a recent 2-year period, federal data shows there have been more than 1,000 complaints of sexual assaults and sexual abuse at immigration detention centers nationwide.
For 3.5 years, Davina Watson was held in an immigration detention center. He lived with the constant fear of being deported, even though Davina is a U.S. citizen.
Oh yeah, 3 years is rough, but have you ever been a powerful government employee that someone was mean to once? Before ICE, the U.S. didn't have an agency dedicated to deporting people who pose no threat to us. Until the current wave of wall humpers came to power, a lot of conservatives were totally cool with that.
I believe in the idea of amnesty for those who have put down roots and who have lived here, even though some time back they may have entered illegally.
Oh man, imagine if Trump saw that today. He'd probably be like, whoa, a ghost. It was actually Reagan, a Republican president, who gave amnesty to 3 million undocumented immigrants, and a Democratic president who screwed them over by ramping up deportation, which seems counterintuitive until you realize they had switched bodies after getting struck by lightning while urinating in a fountain. Also, Donald Trump immediately went for a swim in that fountain. And ICE isn't just new, it's in entirely the wrong part of the government. ICE was created shortly after 9/11 when Islamophobia was as rampant as tube tops and respect for Rudy Giuliani. Oh, shit. 2 of those things are back. If tube tops come back in, I swear to God, I might stop shopping at Forever 21. In our national terrorism freakout, we turned immigration from an economic and labor issue into a national security issue. Deportations were handled by the Enforcement and Removal Operations Unit, a division of the newly created ICE, which was a division of the newly created Department of Homeland Security, which was a division of, I want to say, Nabisco? By putting the anti-terrorism people in charge of immigration, the government signaled that immigrants are a threat. But ICE's own figures show most immigrants in detention pose no threat to the public. Abolishing ICE should be a bipartisan issue. It's textbook government waste. We spend more than $6 billion a year on this bloated, unaccountable, cruel department. So what do Republicans say we should do about agencies like ICE?
It is dictatorial. It is unaccountable. It is practically unrestrained and expanding on its already expansive mandate from Congress, and it is contemptuous of the rights, values, and preferences of ordinary Americans. There's no better example of the corruption of power than this agency. It is imperative that we move toward abolishing the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Consumer Financial Protection Bureau? Oh, sorry, I thought he was talking about ICE. I must have zoned out while gazing lustily at his sexy neck scrotum. And remember, ICE isn't Border Patrol. They work on the interior of the country. They're getting rid of immigrants who are already living in our society, most of whom just want the same things we all want: a safe place to live, a job to support their family, and more skin on Riverdale. Unfortunately, our big, lumpy boy sees every immigrant as a threat, so he's given ICE carte blanche, emphasis on blanche, to round up as many as it can find. Veterans, parents who have lived and worked here for decades, people who will literally be murdered if sent back to their home country. Our current immigration policy is an early 2000s relic that's become outdated, a law enforcement Adrian Brody, if you will. And like Adrian Brody, it must be eliminated. Abolishing ICE shouldn't be controversial. Despite what Fox News would have you believe, it doesn't mean we let immigrants who commit actual crimes go free. We already have mechanisms to prosecute them through something called the law. The criminal justice system can handle immigrants just like it handles everybody else. So don't worry, Republicans. Even if we score a win for human decency by getting rid of ICE, you can still count on the police and the prison system to treat non-white people like subhuman garbage, so everybody wins. Truly, the number one reason ICE needs to go isn't just that it's a wasteful, made-up, misplaced, useless agency. It's because it's cruel.
Family members in Plant City will be forced to say goodbye to this father. Luis Blanco is said to be deported by ICE at the end of this month. Now his pregnant wife and children are left to fend for themselves since he was the sole provider for this family.
I was gonna go to college in January, but I couldn't because I have to help my family with the bills.
The U.S. government should not be in the business of tearing happy families apart. It's disgusting, and it makes assholes like this think they're being good citizens.
Clients at your staff is speaking Spanish to customers when they should be speaking English. And my guess is they're not documented. So my next call is to ICE to have each one of them kicked out of my country. Honey, I'm calling ICE.
The only time a New Yorker should be screaming about ICE is if your barista put 6 ice cubes in your venti unicorn latte instead of 5. Now there's no room for the colors. So no, let's not just reform ICE or fix it or hope it gets better under a different president. Let's shut it the f down. If former ICE agents need a new job, may I suggest the law office of Aaron Schlossberg? I think there may be a vacancy. I've been a fan of country music for years, particularly since I learned what Reba McEntire likes to do with a pair of balls.
What is the most country thing you've ever done? Eat mountain oysters?
If it wasn't for this, we would have starved to death when we were growing up.
Really?
See, Daddy would get in bulls, and then we'd castrate them, and then we'd eat these for meals.
You go, girl!
The women of country music are quite literally ball-crushing legends, which is why I'm so furious to hear that it's harder to be a woman country artist in 2020 than it was 2 decades ago. I sent Amy Hoggart and Sashir Zameda to learn more.
This past year, even country music went feminist. Brandi Carlile and Tanya Tucker earned a bunch of Grammy nominations. The CMAs had all women hosts, and they made everyone walk out of a big glass vagina. And Holy Mother Biscuits and Gravy, even Cracker Barrel played exclusively music sung by women. So crank up that country radio for some lady-powered action.
Your little hot self over here, girl, hand me another beer. Country girl, shake it for me. It takes forever getting ready, so she's never on time.
Oh, sentimental sexism. Okay, it's just a bunch of dude bros. Hi. So, we're in the neon-soaked streets of Nashville because there is a problem with sexism in country music, and also sports, finance, and politics. But, like I was saying, we're in Nashville. First stop, the Next Women in Country event to ambush Brandi Carlile, recipient of the Impact Award.
What do you think is the main reason that we're not hearing enough female voices in country music?
I think that's a really good question, and
thank you.
Yeah, the answer to it is that there's really no one person that you can point a finger at. Anyone that listens to country music, anyone that loves country music, despite where you fall on the political spectrum or who it is that you are, ask yourself this question, which is, what do you want your daughter to know about herself? And if you can't get that from country music, if you can't get that from country radio, it's a problem.
Is there one person you would like to point a finger at?
Yeah, absolutely, Kid Rock. No, I'm joking.
Okay. Recent polls show that country ranks as one of America's favorite music genres.
Unfortunately, since 2000, there's been a 66% decline in songs by women artists on country radio. What's the opposite of yeehaw?
We're at the mothership of country music, the Ryman Auditorium, to catch up with CMT's Leslie Fram. She is pointing her finger at something called Tomatogate.
Tomatogate was a misfortunate comment that was made by a radio consultant that if you play women on the radio, your ratings will go down.
Oh, wow.
So it's actually gotten worse.
She's talking about the influential radio consultant Keith Hill, who urged programmers to think of women as just not the lettuce in our salad. The tomatoes of our salad are the females.
Because nothing says I understand women like calling us the females.
Anyway, he implied that women were just a garnish and radio stations bought in, and Tomatogate further silenced women.
There are a lot of myths out there, myths that women don't want to hear women on the radio. You can't play two women in a row.
I don't mean to be patronizing, but why is radio still a big deal in country? Like, do you guys still use rotary phones?
Believe it or not, radio's still king. So I feel like we're training people not to hear female voices.
Seems like America is moving past training and going full-on pro.
And since country music is by far the most popular genre in conservative swing states, some artists are taking the Tomatogate high road and just—
You say tomato, I say f*** you.
Okay then. This is Grammy nominee and fun t-shirt model, Margot Price.
I wrote a song called Pay Gap, and it's exactly what it's about. That lost me a lot of those mainstream country fans that I had.
And you're not even signed to a country label, are you?
No, I was blacklisted by a lot of those people because my music talked about real-life problems, and they just didn't like what I had to say. But there are people in rural America who need to hear these songs, especially young women.
Turns out, not listening to women is pretty much the national pastime.
In 1975, they banned Loretta Lynn's Ode to Birth Control, The Pill.
The Dixie Chicks were cancelled for criticizing that decade's Iraq War.
And Tanya Tucker was banned for just alluding to premarital sex.
You know, I'd really expect more tolerance from a genre that supports f***ing your truck.
When I first started out, they wouldn't have another woman on a show. It'd be one woman and 3 boys. If I show up late 10 minutes for a show, oh, all hell breaks loose. Hank Jr. shows up 2 hours late, nobody ever hears about it.
Right.
The women in country music, they've had the hard road to hoe.
I really want that on a t-shirt.
As I say, country saying.
With rhinestones.
And according to singer Mickey Guyton, like most roads, these get even harder when you're black.
Black people love country music, and there's so many people that look like me that love country music, and that's what I'm here to do. We're really just paving our own way. That sounds like the lyrics to a country song. Yeah. You actually look like a country music singer.
Women paving their own way.
You'd be in a girl group, Ebony Ivory. Whoa. I don't want to do that. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm surprised to meet you because the only black person I knew in country was Lil Nas X.
There's so many more.
Okay, side note, these same gatekeepers had Old Town Road removed from the country music charts because of the song not embracing enough elements of today's country music. I translated that from Southern to English, and it means he's black.
We deserve to have our time here. We deserve to be here. I get so many messages from girls saying, I'm so glad to see someone that looks like me. And that's a win for me.
This needs to end now. We can't have another generation of fans limited by the taste and opinions of old white men.
They already have the Oscars, sports, banks, medicine, Hollywood, and most presidential candidates.
But we're in Nashville. We want to make a difference here. We need our own country campaign and catchphrase. I'm thinking like twangs up.
Twangs up.
Play on time's up.
I kind of like that.
Okay. Twangs up, no.
I hate that too.
Yeah, we never suggested it.
Yeah.
It's up, one of the two.
I know, somebody said they wanted to start bra country, and I was like, no, that's a terrible idea.
I don't mind it.
Let's save a koozie, play a cowgirl.
I just want women to get played. You come up with the slogan.
We can do that.
We can do it.
It's time to kick out the wilted lettuce and incorporate more tomatoes in this salad.
It's caprese time. America has a lot of dark secrets, such as whatever happened to the other 2 Cinnamon Toast Crunch bakers? What did you do to your brother, Chef Wendell? I can see it in your eyes that it was bad. No, America's best kept secret is what we're doing in Yemen. I did my best to find out exactly what's going on. We're so worried about a possible war with North Korea that we've forgotten that we're already involved in a war in Yemen.
And that war is the worst man-made humanitarian disaster in history. Ugh, I need a snack from my favorite off-brand 7-Eleven. Hi.
Hi, Sam. You look awesome. You look like you're having a bad day.
Yeah, I am. Can I just get the usual?
Of course. Here you go.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Delicious. You're from Yemen, right?
Yes, I am.
Do you have family in Yemen right now?
I do have family. I have a parents who lives in Yemen. They dying to see my kids. They haven't seen them because the war started. People are hungry. People are suffering. People are dying. I mean, looking at the babies every morning, checking if there is anything about Yemen and our media. And I was really hurting when I didn't see anything. And there is a big thing happening in Yemen.
Nobody talks about it.
Nobody talks about it.
I'm so mad, I want to freeze all your bananas. I need to learn more about Yemen, so I asked Senator Chris Murphy, one of maybe 8 Americans who knows a lot about the subject, to meet me at my new war crimes briefing room, the Dubliner. Why is this a passion for you?
The United States is participating in the murder of civilians somewhere on this earth, and everybody in this country shouldn't accept that.
It's 2018. Welcome to my comedy show. Drink up. Remind me, why are we involved in this?
The Saudis are our friend.
Okay.
And our friend has asked us for help, and so we are helping. So the United States actually sold the Saudis the planes, sold them the bombs. The problem is because they've never used them before, they're really bad at it. So we're not really sure whether they are targeting civilians inside Yemen or they're just dropping bombs on the wrong people.
What?
Yeah, we have done everything other than actually pull the trigger to drop the bombs.
Do people know that?
Most Americans don't know much at all about Yemen.
The only thing Americans really know about Yemen is that Chandler pretended to move to Yemen in order to break up with Janice.
Janice was terrible.
Fair. Though not as terrible as trying to explain the war in Yemen on a comedy show, how do I put chocolate on this mother broccoli? Oh, I have an idea. It's Game of Thrones, it's Cake of Thrones, dee-dee-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. It's Yemen, where for 3 years a civil war has been raging for control of the country. Who's fighting? The Houthi rebels, who are financially supported by Iran, and the current Yemeni government, who is financially backed by Saudi Arabia, effectively turning Yemen into a battleground for Iran and Saudi Arabia to measure their using our yardstick. Why do I keep doing these depressing field pieces? So what is the human cost of the war in Yemen?
There are 10,000 civilians who have died either from disease or from bombing campaigns. Over 50% of the children in the country are in famine or on the verge of famine. Blockades mean that the Saudis were stopping humanitarian relief supplies from coming into the country. And bombs that were dropped hit the water treatment plants. Thus, Yemenis were drinking water laced with sewage and feces, creating an outbreak of cholera.
Who's the architect of this mess? Everybody's favorite reformer, Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Coincidentally, America's #1 international arms buyer. I'm sure those aren't related.
He's got a lot of friends in this town. The Saudis send a lot of money into Washington, D.C. In the end, it has an effect.
The Democrats, though, they're coming down on the right side of this, right? Like, they hate him.
MBS has a lot of Democratic friends as well as Republican friends.
MBS? Oh my God, that sounds like an intestinal disease. MBS, a bipartisan disease affecting almost everyone you've ever voted for or bought something from and everyone you like. Ugh. Plus, he's rounding up all the feminists in Saudi Arabia.
If the United States wasn't helping the Saudis, I think there's a question whether the Saudis would continue.
So what I'm hearing is that we're too busy constantly blowing Saudi Arabia to actually use our mouths to speak up against human rights violations.
Yeah, that's a way to put it.
Oh, this is embarrassing. Two-part question. How would you solve the humanitarian crisis in Yemen? And do you have Vaseline?
I do have Vaseline. What do you need it for?
Just, never mind.
For the war in Yemen, we asked the United States to be more involved in the peace process. They never do anything to stop the war. If you care about human rights, you would do something about it.
Well, I don't have a solution for how to get the U.S. government out of Saudi's pocket, but I do have one tiny proposal for how to get everyday Americans to start caring about Yemen. Cat memes. Aw, Yemen.
Did it work?
Hey everyone. With all these big sexual harassment cases going public, men are getting concerned about how they can avoid being accused. Some have even stopped having solo meetings with women at all, which is great for women's careers. Thanks, guys. So, I have some business advice. Fellas, I'm a big comedy star / Hollywood executive, and I found that it's quite easy not to masturbate in front of my employees. In fact, it's one of the easiest things I don't do. Every day I wake up, get dressed, take the subway to work, and then don't masturbate in front of anyone. Next time you get the urge to masturbate, just ask yourself, am I in front of an employee or a colleague? And if the answer is yes, don't. Just don't. And also, while I have you here, men, I'm sorry to break this to you, but your dick is ugly. No one wants to see your dick in any context. Even the straightest, horniest woman who loves you the most is hoping you can get it inside her without her having to look at it. So definitely don't show it to strangers. Don't text pics of it to people, and don't whip it out at film festivals. Your dick is objectively the worst thing about you. If you want to send a lady a picture of something, try your nipple or a pinky toe or a favorite mole. Don't masturbate in front of people who haven't specifically asked you to. And even then, stop and ask yourself, what is our power dynamic? Is there a chance in hell that this person might only be agreeing to see my hideous out of fear for their career? If so, make a good business choice and keep your business in your pants. Good talk, guys.
This has been important business advice from Samantha B.
If you liked this video, hit subscribe and leave a pleasant comment below. Let's ride out the rest of this nightmare year together, okay? Okay? All right.